All right, so we're re-recording this for the third or fourth time, I think. I'm going to put this in as the intro. I'm sorry that I have to record this so many times, but I have a old laptop that used to not be bad, but now it's old, and a cheap camera and cheap everything. And so I am trying my best to get this out there to you despite the struggles. I think I'm going to have to record it in bits and pieces and then edit it together. So if some of this looks a little spliced, I'm sorry about that. But it's just what I got to do to get the content out there. And I know that I'm a little slow to this Graham Platner stuff, but I have had technical difficulties, and I'm also a student, so bear with me if I'm a little slow to some of these topics. I'm really trying my best to get this stuff out there. I'm trying to make good content that isn't just slop. I'm trying to actually give you guys some stuff to watch that is worth your time watching and not just garbage. So thank you for watching. Trigger warning. This video will include mentions and descriptions of graphic sexual acts allegedly perpetrated by the subject of this video, Graham Platner. I just want to start this video by saying that some of the stuff I covered in this video is going to be pretty dark, it's going to be pretty graphic, and it could be triggering to some. And if you're one of those people, I totally understand if you just need to click away or skip through the video. I totally get it. This video is going to be pretty heavy. So go on about your day, do what you got to do. Thank you. I also just want to say that this is going to be only the first part of a two-part series on Platner. This part is just going to be covering the allegations, his response, him dropping out, all of that stuff. And then the second part is going to be more of a critique of other leftist content creators, other people on the left who supported him, and people, frankly, that I'm just kind of disappointed in. And so that's what the second part is going to be about. It should come out hopefully the day after this, but we'll see with my technical difficulties. Thank you. So Graham Platner, prior to July 8th, was running for and likely going to win the Senate seat for Maine in 2026 against Susan Collins. He ran on a progressive ticket, and while not being DSA or socialist explicitly, he was anti-Israel, anti-establishment, and wanted to tax the rich for the betterment of the American people. Sounds like a pretty good candidate, right? Well, before I dive into everything that I perceive as a problem with Platner, I want to give you the most recent and most damning information of all up front. So on July 6, Politico released this article detailing the account of a woman accusing Graham Platner of sexual assault, breaking and entering, as well as other misconduct. I want to read straight from the article to you. A woman who dated Maine U.S. Senate candidate Graham Platner says he forced her to have sex with him nearly 5 years ago despite her repeated objections, an allegation Platner denies. This woman, a 41-year-old Maine resident named Jay Rasico, detailed the alleged incident to Politico in 3 interviews over the past 2 weeks. Politico also spoke with a man Rasico dated and confided in the years after the alleged incident and reviewed documents including emails between Rasico and her therapist and messages between Rasico and an acquaintance whom she warned against getting involved with Platner years before he ran for office. Rasico said she had an on and off relationship with Platner, who is now the Democratic Senate nominee in Maine, for more than 2 years before he entered her rural Maine home uninvited one night in late 2021, deeply intoxicated, and forced himself on her while she repeatedly told him to stop. She said she cut off contact with him after telling him the encounter was not consensual. Quote, I remember him grabbing my pelvis and being really forceful of me, she said. I remember the specific moment where I thought to myself, like, this is no longer my choice. Platner has obviously denied these allegations. She goes on to say how she was a part of the earlier New York Times article that alleged other misconduct by Platner, but due to the nature of this particular woman's political affiliations, the story was mostly discarded and her story was overlooked. She was also torn because she does agree with Platner politically and wants more representation in government. Rasico told Politico she connected with Platner on the dating app Bumble in 2019 and had consensual relations with him prior to the night of the alleged assault. That night in late 2021, she said she exchanged text messages with him and told him not to come over, saying she wasn't in the mood for company. Later that evening, she said she realized when she heard a sound on the stairs that he had let himself into her house, which was unlocked. Platner came up the stairs, Rasico said, to where she was on a couch. He got on top of her and kept grabbing her, she said, while she repeatedly told him to stop and that she wasn't interested. Rasico said she smelled alcohol in his breath and believed he was, quote, almost blackout drunk because Platner ignored her protests and continued to grab her after knocking over an antique sewing kit, spilling small needles everywhere. I had been telling him these words, like, no, don't, she recalled, and the look on his face after realizing what was happening, I just realized that, like, I am in a situation where there's no consent here, she said. Rasico said she tried to separate herself from Platner by telling him she couldn't be in that room anymore, after which he followed her to her bedroom and had sex with her against her will. She said he also ejaculated inside of her despite her telling him not to, as she was not using birth control at the time. She went to clean herself up, she said, and when she returned, Platner had fallen asleep. She contemplated waking him up to kick him out, but worried he could hurt someone driving in the state he was in. The following morning, she said, Platner tried to put his arm around her, and she pushed him away. She said she had asked him whether he remembered what had happened the previous night. According to Rasko, Platner said he didn't remember. Rasko said she told him to leave and never contact her again. Rasko said she waited several weeks until she got her period to ensure she wasn't pregnant. Then sent Platner a private message on Instagram saying that the encounter was not consensual and she did not want to hear from him ever again. Rasko had no further contact with him after that, she said. Rasko said she later deleted all of her texts and social media correspondence with Platner and said she has not been able to recover the Instagram messages she sent him about the incident. Rasko then goes on to tell her therapist about the experience, as well as a man she dated after Platner, and an unrelated acquaintance who was either beginning to become involved with Platner or trying to set a friend up with him. In the messages, Rasko said she had, quote, ended up in a bad situation with him, describing Platner as consensually careless and saying he doesn't listen to you when drunk. She also told a close friend about the experience. Every one of these people who gave a comment to Politico confirmed that the stories all lined up. So Platner's denied all these allegations relating to, quote, being physical with women. However, if we look back with hindsight at some of those Reddit comments that everyone was so quick to discard, he makes a few comments about women that could definitely be seen as misogynistic. And he even says that people who are sexually assaulted because they become too intoxicated deserve what happens to them, basically. Quote, holy fuck, how about people just take some responsibility for themselves and not get so fucked up that they wind up having sex with someone they don't mean to? Men and women, you make the choice to consume enough of a substance to lose your self-control. So if you don't want to be in a compromising situation, act like an adult for fuck's sake. Rape is a real thing. If you're so worried about it to buy Kevlar underwear, you'd think you might not get blackout drunk and fucked up around people you aren't comfortable with. Disgusting. What a fucking monster. Comments like these just look a lot more like a misogynist guy who likes to abuse his power over women, much more than a guy who has since grown from his edgy past. Let's just take Graham's own words for it. In my experience, fucked up dudes take advantage of fucked up situations to do fucked up things. And in my opinion, Graham Platner's one of those fucked up dudes. Platner has since dropped out of the race, saying that his withdrawal is not an admission of guilt and his downfall is the fault of the establishment. Very common of a guy taking advantage of someone and then blaming everyone else for his downfall as relating to that. So what's my take on this? I think that Graham Platner was always just a walking red flag or red line, because some of these things aren't red flags. And to me, someone who is a leftist, someone who's on the left, it's crazy to me that it took a credible sexual assault allegation for us to abandon Graham Platner as a political candidate. And yes, I will confirm, I absolutely do think that he did this. This is one of the most credible cases you could possibly get without just straight DNA evidence. But Graham Platner is someone who served 4 tours in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, and then after that became a Blackwater mercenary. So this is not a guy that leftists should have ever latched themselves onto. If you have any sort of principles, if you are anti-imperialist, if you are anti-colonialism, if you're anti-war in the Middle East, this is not a guy that you should have got behind, because he doesn't even publicly denounce the things that he did. In some of those Reddit comments, he says that killing was his favorite feeling or the best time of his life. Like, this guy is not a guy we should have got behind. And I don't think it's a surprise that a guy that is willing to go overseas and possibly kill babies and kill kids and kill women and children and innocent people in the Middle East and Iraq and Afghanistan, and has self-admitted to being at Abu Ghraib, I don't think it should be surprising to us that a guy like that would be willing to use violence and strength and his power over a woman or someone he deems weaker than him. I don't think it should be surprising. Those two things should go together. If you believe in a natural hierarchy as someone who has served in the military and doesn't denounce that and seemingly enjoyed what he was doing over there, believes in hierarchy. If you believe in hierarchies and you're a straight white guy who is violent, I mean, the odds are that you've done something terrible to a woman. But that shouldn't be we should have been over with him way before all of this came out. I mean, that's ridiculous. And I just think that the electoral Democratic left, which to a degree I'm a part of, I think that they overlooked so many red flags that weren't just red flags, they were also red lines that we shouldn't cross. And I get it. We want leftist people elected. We want leftist values in our politics. And if that's your goal, cool. But there have to be principles and there have to be red lines. What is there in Graham Platner that there isn't in someone like Chris Robb? Chris Robb is anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, anti-establishment. He is actually a democratic socialist and not just a sock dem or whatever that Graham Platner claims to be. The only difference is Chris Robb is a black guy, and I really do think that there is something to the fact that if Graham Platner was not a white man, we would have never let him get this far. With all of those red flags, all of those things in congruence with each other, we would have never let a black man or a black woman or a brown woman, anyone that wasn't a white man, get to where he is in a leftist space. And I'm so sorry if the footage gets messed up on this video or something like that. I'm trying my best here. I'm having to record in little tiny bits and pieces. So if it looks like trash, I'm so sorry. I'm really doing my best here, and I'll try my hardest to get things better in the future. If you want them to improve quicker, send me money, subscribe, go support me on my other platforms, because I'm not going to be able to make the product better without any sort of support, and really all of it is up to my viewers, my watchers. So thank you guys for watching, and the last thing I just want to say is fuck Graham Platner, and I hope to see you in the second video. Thank you.